Today, Tony Blair welcomed to Downing Street the leader of another country with a shocking record on human rights. The Emir of Bahrain was on his first official visit to Britain. The Foreign Office says it has a policy of constructive engagement with Bahrainis over human rights. But tonight we have evidence of British complicity in torture and repression in Bahrain, and we also ask whether Labour MPs have allowed themselves to become part of the Bahraini regime's propaganda machine. Sarah Spiller posed as a tourist to film this undercover report, and you may find some of the pictures upsetting.
If you're a Brit in Bahrain, it could be home from home. You can enjoy British music, pleasant resorts, even a beer. But whilst this state might have gained independence 28 years ago, might have a new ruler, according to campaigners, this is a country where citizens are denied some of the most basic human rights, a place where the real British legacy is repression and torture.
They put your hand in the glove and they bring the hammer, beating your finger.
Filming undercover, we posed as tourists in Bahrain's opulent hotels, and we went to see the sights. The luxurious palace grounds of Bahrain's rulers, the El Khalifa family, and the villages where the calls are for freedom and democracy. At secret locations, we heard how young people have been arrested after peaceful political protests. Many were so terrified they asked us to disguise their appearance. This young girl was held for 2 weeks after a demonstration at her school. She was beaten with a hosepipe, then came the threats.
And she said to us, if you don't confess, we'll put you on the electric chair until you confess. And if you don't confess, you will be raped. They took us all to a room, and we were stripped naked all over, and made to stand as a method of torture.
When youngsters paint slogans on walls, they risk being beaten. A 12-year-old told us how he was held for 9 days.
They put us in a room and they started beating us inside the room whilst interrogating us. They used a hose to beat us. They hit me on the back, on the feet.
Pictures smuggled from Bahrain show the scale of the democracy movement here. The country's rulers maintain the movement for political reform has been responsible for violence and deaths. Activists say what they want is the restoration of Bahrain's National Assembly, dissolved in 1975. One of the figureheads of the opposition is Sheikh al-Jamri. He's been effectively silenced, with a 24-hour security presence around his home.
My father was put in jail, isolated from the world, tortured psychologically and physically. He is under house arrest now. The government use him as an example to show the others that the government has no limits.
Sheikh al-Jamri's picture now appears on walls alongside other activists. Over the last few months, Bahrain's ruler has pardoned political dissidents, released 300 prisoners, and set up a human rights panel. Moves the regime's opponents say don't go nearly far enough. The European Parliament, along with human rights groups, have condemned arbitrary arrests, detention for 3 years without trial, the ruthless use of force by Bahrain's rulers. The US State Department has also highlighted cases of torture. One, the death of this 19-year-old Syed Ali Amin, reportedly beaten and tortured after his arrest. The US State Department has said this case is one of a number the authorities have failed to investigate. And at the heart of outrage, a British colonel who has operated from this fortified castle. Along this road is the headquarters of Bahrain's secret police, a place of fear for political dissidents. People here have told us horrific stories of torture, and some of their meetings with the notorious Ian Henderson. This rare TV interview with Ian Henderson was recorded when he was deported from Kenya following independence in 1964.
In any place. What I did many years ago as a police officer during the emergency, when Kenya was not an independent country, is today seen as something not very desirable.
Not desirable in Kenya, but according to confidential Foreign Office documents, Henderson became highly desirable to the British. Secret papers show how the British Foreign Office persuaded Henderson to take charge of Bahrain's security services in 1966, and soon became impressed by his performance as he began firing on all cylinders. As the man who's directed the state security forces now for over 30 years, Henderson's been condemned by the European Parliament labelled by a British MP the Butcher of Bahrain. And tonight we can present new evidence about him stretching back to the early 70s. One witness told us how the British colonel hit a prisoner when he refused to confess.
He put on the knuckle duster. He did not control himself. He punched him on the glasses, and that's why the eye started bleeding.
Another witness told us how 4 years ago, after he was tortured by an officer, Henderson came to interrogate him.
They trussed me like a chicken for 15 minutes. They take you and bend you double and handcuff you. They insert a wooden rod and they suspend you. After 1 week of my arrest, it was him who interrogated me. He said, "What do you want? Why do you call for the restoration of democracy?"
But the most damning evidence is from the man who drew these pictures of his ordeal at the hands of Henderson's officers. He agreed to be identified at great personal risk.
They torture us by the dog. Sometimes they bring the clump. They take your nail off.
He told us that officers sexually assaulted him.
The worst of them, that's torturing. They put something in your body. Sometimes his finger, sometimes no. His pill, sometimes the stick, sometimes the bottle, sometimes like that. That is very bad, really.
Then he told us of the times he met Ian Henderson. Hashim Reta said Henderson hit him and threatened him.
He tortured me one time. He kicked me and shot me 2 times. He told me, if you like the heat, we can hit you more than that.